Hello, everybody. David Shuster here. Donald Trump's panic over the Jeffrey Epstein story is intensifying by the day.
This is the proof that Epstein attended Trump's wedding at the Plaza Hotel in New York.
A CNN reporter who unearthed this photograph reached Trump over the phone. The call was brief.
I think our call is about 30 seconds or so. But when I asked him about the wedding photo, he said, he sort of paused for a second and then said, "You've got to be kidding me," before calling CNN fake news and then hanging up on me.
CNN's Andrew Kaczynski reports there are other photographs of Epstein with Trump's family and friends.
We can also see him in the background of another picture. That's Howard Stern on the far right, along with Robin Leach from Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. And Epstein is behind them at the wedding, almost seeming to be photobombing them. We also found this photo from just a few months earlier. Donald Trump with two of his children talking to Jeffrey Epstein. That's at the opening of the Harley-Davidson Cafe in New York in October 1993. You can see Ivana there. She would have been just about to turn 12 years old.
CNN also found video of Trump and Epstein together from 1999.
It shows Trump talking to Jeffrey Epstein just before models hit the runway at the Victoria's Secret fashion show in New York in 1999. You know, the only other video we've seen of the two men was 7 years before this.
And that's a reference to this now infamous video shot by NBC News of Epstein and Trump together at a party in 1992. By all accounts, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were close friends for nearly 15 years. But the Trump White House keeps trying to downplay the friendship and the evidence.
Now, in a statement to CNN, White House Communications Director Stephen Chung said this. He said these are nothing more than out-of-context frame grabs of innocuous videos and pictures of widely attended events to disgustingly infer something nefarious.
But nefarious is how the public, according to the polling, describes the Trump administration continuing to bury the Epstein files. In an effort to try and ratchet down the public uproar, particularly in MAGA world, Trump recently asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to release some Epstein grand jury witness testimony. But Democrats and many Republicans are demanding Trump release the entire caseload of Epstein files.
The president's staff, administration, his own children, his vice president have promised that these files would come out, and now we're being told it's a hoax. It doesn't wash.
To try and change the subject, Donald Trump has been attempting to generate headlines on several other stories. He's demanding the Washington Commanders National Football League team change its name back to the Washington Redskins. Trump has spoken out on an obscure special election race, and Trump has been bashing former President Barack Obama. Trump and his National Security Director, Tulsi Gabbard, alleged that Obama publicly withheld information about the Russian election interference probe in 2016 in an effort to undermine Donald Trump's victory.
Whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, oh, you know, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. Look, he's guilty. It's not a question. You know, I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason.
It was treason. Well, we will get to Trump's use of that word in a moment. First, the office of President Obama is responding to the underlying accusations.
In a statement refuting President Trump's claims, a spokesperson for former President Obama writes this: "Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes." These findings were affirmed in a 2020 report by the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee led by then-Chairman Marco Rubio.
In other words, even Marco Rubio, now Secretary of State, and all other Republicans on the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Panel concluded that what President Obama said publicly about Russia was the truth. Yes, Russia hacked into the DNC and favored Trump over Hillary Clinton. But no, Russia did not interfere with the vote tabulations. And President Obama in 2016 said both. Now, never mind the thrust of Trump's absurd assertions about Obama, Trump's hyperbolic word choice about Obama is creating waves.
It's there. He's guilty. This was treason.
We just saw a clip of is the sitting president of the United States of America talking about one of his predecessors, Barack Obama, and using the word treason.
Yeah.
That is so far beyond the pale that unfortunately, in the shocking tornado-like events that happen each and every day in the news business, people might be immune to it. It might go over their heads. But a sitting president of the United States using the word treason, look up the definition, about another president of the United States is beyond shocking.
And the level of shock underscores just how consumed Donald Trump is about redirecting his own voters away from the Jeffrey Epstein files.
It must be said, this is, President Trump trying to distract. We have seen for 4 days an effort, a flailing effort to try to turn the conflict of conversation away from the Jeffrey Epstein matter, and this is what he settled on.
Clearly, Donald Trump is panicked, anxious, and nervous about what may be in the Epstein files about him. So Trump is now willing to say or do anything to try and get MAGA world riled up about something else. But trying to reignite MAGA passions against Barack Obama is not going to work. Because on top of Trump going against settled history about the Russia investigation and Obama's accuracy in describing it, the Epstein story itself seems to have legs. House Speaker Mike Johnson just put the chamber in recess until September, effectively blocking a bipartisan vote on the release of all the Epstein files. But Democrats and Republicans are now saying they will seek the vote again if all of the Epstein files are not released.
They have said that if we come back in September and we don't have the material we need, then we will go forward with this petition. So this is not done. And it's a rare sense of I'm told, real panic in the inner circle of the Trump orbit because this is a story they simply can't control.
Yeah.
It's a story Donald Trump cannot control and a controversy he cannot shake. And that's because the truth is that Donald Trump palled around with Jeffrey Epstein for 15 years. Trump was close friends with the man who was later convicted for sex trafficking. Trump rode on Epstein's plane, went to parties with Epstein, sent Epstein salacious birthday cards, and so much more. And we are learning much more now as the photographs and videos get unearthed and published. For now, Donald Trump can keep hanging up the phone and making baseless accusations about President Obama, but it's Trump who is getting cornered, and the walls are going to keep closing in. By the way, the Epstein files allegedly include lewd photographs of Donald Trump.
At one point, after Trump had been elected, I was sitting talking to Epstein, and he said, "Wait a minute, I got to show you something." And then he went into his safe, and he came out with photographs. They were Polaroids, I think, and I remember very vividly 3 of them. There are 2 in which Trump is the topless girls are sitting on Trump's lap, and then a 3rd in which he has a stain on the front of his pants, and the girls are kind of pointing at it, sort of bent over, laughing.
Check out that story at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from Raymond, who wrote, "The whole world knows what Trump did. We are so disgusted with Trump's perverted life." I hear you. I look forward to reading your comments about Donald Trump panicking, lashing out, and hanging up on a reporter who confronted him about photos of Jeffrey Epstein at a Donald Trump wedding. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.